I heard the beep. That means that it's being recorded. By the way, this video is coming to you by the Tatiana Production Company, located in the Mid-Peninsula, state of California, near Stanford University. It's just across the street, you must know. Tatiana Productions, and I'm one of her many, I like to think, starring actors. I mean, I added the star, I'm one of the actors. There are others, believe me. Even though I like to put out that I am the only one that knows everything, it's not true. Ron Hubbard once said, "The only richness there is understanding." And then he changed that to "the only richness there is money." But that was later. In the beginning, the only richness there is understanding. Now, how could that possibly be the only richness there is? Well, if you want to look at anything that you've been successful with, whether it was making money or attracting males or females or skiing or anything, you were able to do it because you understood. You understood. Do you understand what I'm saying? You had understanding. If you see people without understanding, they don't get the girl or the guy. They don't fly the airplane. I don't know how. I don't understand how something that weighs 340 tons could be flying. 747 Boeing. So understanding. Well, how did you get an A in sex education, math? I understand math. And because I understand it, I was hired by a big company and they were paying me a lot of money. So, understanding does lead to and is in itself truly the only richness there is. Because from it comes all the other richnesses, usually. There may be richnesses you could get without understanding, but I am not aware of them. It's because I understand that an ice skating rink is slippery. I don't go running out on it and fall down and smash my skull. I mention that because years ago, when I was in Washington, D.C. working for the Founding Church of Scientology of District of Columbia, at night and on the weekends, by daytime, I was working as a construction engineer on Dulles International Airport. This is 1958. 1958. But 3 nights a week, I worked at an ice skating rink because I wanted to, on one of the bridges. It was at this hotel, motel, I think it was on Memorial Bridge or the Key Bridge, I forget. And they had this vast open-air ice skating rink. And I, since I've been a little boy, loved ice skating. So eventually I got a job there, both as a rink attendant, meaning you keep people from killing themselves, and once every hour you help make new ice using a machine. And I also taught little kids the basics of ice skating. But every so often someone would come running out on the rink and their feet would go up in the air and their skull would hit the rink. They might even have ice skates on, but they hadn't learned the first thing about ice skating, which is how to fall down. When you're teaching anybody how to ice skate, the first thing you want to teach them is how to soften their knees and slip to the ground rather than going like this and then have their feet up there and their skull crashing down on the rink, on the ice. So teaching little children is easy. They don't mind falling down and sliding around. But that's the first thing you want to teach an adult too, is to be able to straighten and bend their knees so that when they feel they're losing control, they can sit down on their tushy, not the skull on the ice. And if you watch even the pros miss a jump or something, you'll see they're landing on their tuchus, their ass, not their heads, because they know how to let go and go limp like a person. In fact, drunks on an ice skating rink have fewer accidents than very stiff people who are trying to go around. Now, that's something you can understand about ice skating. It's the first thing you want to learn before you kill yourself or another, is how to gracefully and gently fall down to the ice. Okay? So the only richness there is understanding. Now one of the understandings that can come from this richness is something that Hubbard, I guess to some degree he invented it. He called it the tone scale, the emotional tone scale. It fits into the concept of affinity, which we'll get to later. But the tone scale, just the original one, the earliest, was just something that said, well, you can experience feeling dead, or even be dead, and then just above feeling dead is apathy. It's sort of like it's all hopeless, it's no use. And a little bit above apathy is loss or grief. I think I've got that right. And then a little bit above grief is fear. Fear. Okay? So could say we're coming up, because at each tone level there's more motion. There's very little motion at death. If you've ever seen a dead body, it's like nothing moving. Or someone who feels deathful, hardly any motion. But at fear, there's a lot of motion, like running and jumping and trying to escape or so forth. At apathy, I give up. Kill me. Just take me into the concentration camp. There's 3,000 of us. We could overwhelm you. No, we'll go walk obediently to the gas chambers. That's apathy. What's the use? Okay. Did the people start out at apathy? No. Anyway, so fear has more motion in it. And then above fear is when you're afraid, but at the same time you want to be hostile. So I'll pretend to be nice, but I'll really stab you in the back. But I don't want to do it openly because you might attack me. So that's covert hostility. Even though it's got a bad name, we all practice it to one degree or another in all kinds of situations. But if you're stuck being in covert hostility, that's not so good. That means you're going to be pretty hard on all the people around you and situations and so forth. But yet, you might rise to be the president of a vast corporation as a covert hostile. And above that is openly hostile. Anger. I want to destroy, harm, hurt, injure. I'm angry. A lot of motion possible, but a lot of stopping of other things. That's anger. Now, we come to the break point in the tone scale between succumb, die, and survive. It's called antagonism. Now that's a great tone. It means I have the power to hurl back at you anything you aim at me. If you say something, I come right back at you. If you throw a fist at me, I come right back at you. So I'm antagonistic. It's not pleasant, but it's in the survival band because you can see an antagonistic person. And they're actually capable of a lot of things, whereas an angry person is mostly capable of destruction. An antagonistic person might use words or emotions rather than guns and brickbats and swords and H-bombs. So, antagonism, like you say you like that, I don't like it. You think I'm wrong, I think you're wrong. Antagonism. Okay? So a lot of antagonism around. L. Ron Hubbard was often quite antagonistic and angry. But anyway, we'll leave him to the gods and goddesses of those who have left the scene. Or maybe he hasn't left the scene. But anyway, above antagonism is boredom, like, I'm not really interested. I'm bored. You're angry, you're antagonistic. So what? And above boredom, let's see, above boredom is conservatism, I think. Well, it might be. It's a good idea, but before we do it, we better spend a couple of days checking it out. You don't want to rush into anything. Conservative. And above conservatism comes something called interest. Well, a lot of things around here that are interesting. You're interesting. Now we're really getting into something that is fun for you and other people because you're interested. You're interested in what they say, what I'm doing, the world around me. I'm going to be a great scientist or something. But interest, as long as you're interested, you're probably going to be alive. If you lose interest, you're starting down. And above interest, of course, we have that charming tone called cheerfulness. Yes, whatever's happening, I'm cheerful. Yes, we can do it. Yes, we can get together and make it happen. Yes, it's good, and you're good, and it's fun. There's enthusiasm in there. So that's the tone scale. From deathfulness to enthusiasm. That's a 0 to 4 tone scale. And if you're not in really terrible shape, you may use all of those tones in one day. You may be cheerful about having a nice lunch. You may be angry about someone at work who did a bad job. You may get some news and briefly be deathful. But the interesting thing is that when you are less automatic, when you have fewer things that motivate you unconsciously, you're able to move up and down the tone scale at will. I can say, I'm going to be enthusiastic about what we're doing. Or, this is crap, and I'm tired of doing it, and I don't want to do it anymore. I'm bored to death. I wish Tatiana would leave me alone. This is her. No. So you use the whole range, and when you're doing that, you're like a sort of a clear person. Clear in the sense that you aren't forced to feel tone levels like all someone has to do is mention death, and you immediately become worried. All someone has to do is mention danger, and you're afraid. No. You can be all over that scale. And that's a wonderful thing. That in itself is one of the, not necessarily promised, but likely results of some good Dianetics or some good Shakespeare or something like that. So, also, talk about reality. When a person who is looking at life through grief, or a person who's looking at life through cheerfulness or enthusiasm, they're both seeing a different world. A person who's at loss or grief or apathy, low, you may think they see the same world you do if you're at enthusiasm, but they don't. In fact, they see enthusiasm as dangerous, and you see apathy as dangerous. So, depending on your tone level, like a person will say, you know, I hate that restaurant. Say, well, if you were looking at the restaurant through enthusiasm, it looks great. I hate that person, or I see that person as ugly or something. But if I see them through enthusiasm, it's like they're wonderful. They're an interesting actor on the stage with me. Are we going too long?
No. The lighting changed.
You're bored with what I'm saying?
No, the lighting changed, and I see one half of the face and half is
the
down.
producer and director may need to make a slight change here, which of course enrages me. No, it doesn't. It makes me happy, because it means that we might have a remote chance of getting an even more attractive video of my profile. Are you adjusted, or do you need more time, Tatiana?
No, just for a second. I need to put some light on this side.
We need more light because the sun
comes out, and it changes the whole light.
The sun has been drifting around, and she's putting on one of her big lights. I can help this a little bit. Huh?
Try it. Sit up. And maybe move the chair a little bit.
Well, we had to take a little break for an improvement in lighting conditions here in the studio. But once again, Tatiana informs me that we are recording. Trouble is, I've forgotten what I was talking about, so I'm at loss for words. So let's see. I could start quoting from... No, that won't do. We were talking about the tone scale in reality, and I was just trying to say that if you're at, say, called a higher tone, a tone where more motion, more life is present, life will look different to you than a person, say, who is in apathy or grief or fear. And that's, I consider, a self-evident truth, so don't argue with me about it, please. Anyway, getting control, some control, not to lose spontaneity. It's like, if someone says, I'm dying, and you start laughing and becoming enthusiastic, that may be the wrong tone. You may need to aid them or assist them, not necessarily, but unless you're something else, laughing when someone says they're dying or they're feeling terrible would be an inappropriate tone. Or if someone says, I'm feeling great, and you say, that's awful. Awful is an inappropriate response, you could say. Now, the part you're playing, they may call for you to be what might be considered improper. The part you're playing in life doesn't have to, though. But when you've gotten free of stuck beingness, and you are free to shift around, play a different part, to improvise. That's one of the classes in acting, is to be able to create response just like that to another person or a situation. And it's called the art of improvisation. We all have some ability. Some people don't have it at all. They don't, no matter what happens, they don't change. They're like a rock, a stone, solid. But children improvise all the time, as do good actors, as do free beings. Improvise. Make it up. Invent life on the spot. It's fun. It could get you killed, but it could get you very happy too. Don't mess with the police that way by saying, bang, gotcha. They're liable to just shoot you and say, it looked like a gun to me. Don't do that with the police. It's inappropriate. Because they're trained how? To react to what looks like lethal force or a threat to life. They're trained to shoot. And when they shoot, they don't, like they used to, shoot to wound you. They shoot to put at least 2 bullets into the center of the body mass with the intention to kill. That's come up because nowadays, like in the gangs and all the people that associate in another theater situation, these people are carrying automatic weapons, automatic Uzis. They have guns that are automatic that have 26 shots. So the police can't fool around, like say, oh, I'll shoot him in the leg, or I'll shoot the gun out of his hand. The policeman doesn't shoot fast. He's the one that gets killed. So if you start doing this, don't. Better do this, or do that, or just put your hands on your head, but don't reach down towards your belt. That can get you killed in most big cities if the police have been called because of some behavior that you think is great, but your neighbors are all huddled and hiding while you're out shooting a gun or swinging your axe or sword. So, yes, reality, tone scale, using tones. Like, what tone should I approach my boss? Well, my boss is at 1-1, so I'll come in at fear or grief, and he'll want to help me because I'm not a threat to him. If I approach a 1-1 at anger or enthusiasm or something, I'm a threat, going to shoot me down somehow. So if you know the tone scale in people, you get an idea of what part you might want to play. It doesn't mean you're being a phony, it just means you're being real and having fun. Alright, so that's the tone scale. Now, there's a much bigger tone scale that we don't really have to go into, because this is the tone scale of that you which is no one. It's the that you that can be anyone, but isn't anyone. The ultimate actor, the source, in a sense, of life. I hate to say that, but I don't know how comfortable you'll be thinking of yourself as a source of life. But I like it as an idea. Sometimes I even practice it, like I make tea. But anyway, you can be, if you're, by the way, you know what's comfortable for a human being? It isn't knowing everything or knowing nothing. It's somewhere in between. Sometimes you find people who are like, I've got to know and understand everything. That's my goal. That's my purpose. Okay, that's a very special category. You know, you want to be a god or something like that. But for a human being who likes a certain sense of solidity, a sense of being there, the amount of knowingness and unknowingness that you need should be in some kind of human balance, so that you aren't like, boy, is he weird, or boy, is he stupid. You want knowingness on a scale from total knowingness to total unknowingness. You want to get somewhere where you can move up and down around the middle if you're planning to continue being a human being. If you want to stop being a human being, sky's the limit. Let's say today you decide, no more human being. I got a body, I don't know what to do with it. I know what its goals and ambitions and purposes are. It's a body that wants to eat and poop and have sex and live forever, and it's a body. It's what it's supposed to do. But no more for me. I am now free, no longer wish to be human being. So what's the tone scale of such a being? Well, at the very top, supposedly, there's something called serenity of beingness. It's like nothing, no one, no goals, no purposes, no emanation, just, they have statues that try to look like that, you know, like, where is Phil? He said, serenity of beingness. Nothing bothers him. That bit my leg. No, sorry, I was being serene. Till I saw that person start to steal my car. I'm going to kill him. Oh, that's what happens to some of our gurus. Life gets to them. So, okay, coming down from serenity of beingness, there are tone levels like action. That means you want to play a game that is best played with fellow immortals who are willing to have bodies die, explosions occur, planets dissolve, but that's their idea of play. Tone 21 or 22, something like that. And then we could drop down to exhilaration, like, wow! And then we can go below the death of the body, because we can be in any state we want. We could be at owning bodies, protecting bodies, punishing bodies, all the way down to complete, to where we eventually rejoin serenity of beingness. You know, it can be like a circle, or I don't really know. I'm just parroting things I've heard L. Ron Hubbard say, but yes, it is possible to be below death as a consciousness or awareness unit, because that isn't anything substantial. And it's also possible to go way beyond in motion rate, beyond being cheerful. You get to 22 for real, you're a dangerous person already. Because the games you can play, a human would be dying right and left. So humans do not like people like Genghis Khan, Adolf Hitler, Mahatma Gandhi, Jesus. Look at the number of people that have died in the name of a little Jewish boy named Yeshua. Over the centuries, hundreds of millions have died because of something he was supposed to have said that somebody says, no, it was a little different, and I'm going to kill you because of that. Well, these people leave their mark on the world, and but the games they play have nothing to do with survival as a human being. They're always looking at a game that they just made up to play, and it doesn't have to do with death, their death, but if they get mixed up with humans, just like the Greek gods, you're going to see a lot of pain and death happening. I've been over this before, so I won't bore you. I just wanted to mention the tone scale and how things look at different tones. So a lot of times Hubbard would want to play a game with boats. It was dangerous to other people, but he had a lot of fun, and it was okay because he was the maker of the game, and for better or for worse, those people agreed to get into his game, but not as players, as pawns. And pawns are things that can be sacrificed as strategy in the game. Whenever I play chess with Tatiana, she usually beats me with one or two pawns, renders me completely helpless in any strategy I might have. And Hubbard was that way too. He knew how to use pawns. The only thing was the pawns, when he discarded them, didn't like it. And they said, oh, bad Hubbard. But they didn't understand game theory enough to understand that there's a difference between the person who makes the game and who becomes the principal player in it, and all those that are attracted to that game who aren't players. Some of them may think they are, but they aren't, because what the player will do to those people after using them sufficiently is John McMaster. So people in Scientology, because of Hubbard's handling of them, would rise to a position of feeling, I'm a player, just like he is. Not true. And then there would be, why does Hubbard always throw away all these people? When they get too big for their britches, they want to be a player in his game. They can be a knight, a bishop, a rook, maybe even look like a queen or a king. But they aren't making the game, and they aren't playing it. They're in pieces in the game. A lot of people never understood that, and so their feelings were hurt when Hubbard said, you know what? You're going from being a queen to a pawn. And the next thing I'm going to do is sacrifice you, because that's my strategy. So there's been a lot of hurt people who, in my opinion, my observation, which of course is always the truth, never understood their position in Hubbard's game. Because believe it or not, he made a game and was its principal player, and selected who he would play with. Players of comparable magnitude, which often had to be like a country or a vast organization, because he felt like an immortal. So he'd take on the AMA, the government, Australia, the U.S. Postal Department, anything for a game. And of course, there were plenty of casualties for the people who didn't feel immortal in his game. How could he do that to me? I was so close to him, and he handed me over to those dogs in the Sea Organ. Anyway, I've said more than enough for today. I just hope I haven't bored one of my very best, I was going to say my only friend, one of my very best friends, and a person I love. When I use love, I'm not thinking of Tatiana. No, I'm not. I'm thinking of her as a fellow understander of understandings, and a very lovable person too. But she has a great husband, I hope. Anyway, and I have a great wife, I hope. But yes, I love her, and I love her dearly, because she's made possible my second or fourth lifetime as someone who likes to BS about Scientology and dynamics. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle.